With me now are One Detroit contributors and longtime opinion makers in Michigan, Nolan Finley, the editorial page editor of the Detroit News, Stephen Henderson, host of American Black Journal. We are back on Mackinac, and it feels like kind of full speed, doesn't it?
Been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, the crowd's a little thinner, but everyone is so excited to be here and like actually seeing people in 3D that there's a lot of energy.
Beautiful weather.
Yeah, and it's gorgeous.
And the weather's
It's
been
gorgeous
great.
up
Yeah,
here.
right. It's never like this.
Yeah. One of the things that people are talking about that I want to focus on first is the city of Detroit and where we are coming out of the last 2 years, looking at tax base and looking at, it's the state's largest city, and kind of so goes Detroit, so kind of waves along with the rest of the state. Nolan, what are your thoughts right now?
Well, I mean, it's exactly where we should be focused because, coming into the pandemic, we all know where Detroit was. It was on a roll, and everybody was excited about what's going on downtown and into the neighborhoods. The pandemic kicked that in the backside. Nobody's really certain what the next iteration is going to be, how we'll evolve out of this pandemic, and what Detroit's going to look like, say, over the next 5 years. Will it need as much office space as it has now? Without the office space, can it support the restaurants and entertainment venues? And, will it be able to draw the residents downtown and out into the neighborhoods if fewer people are working in the city? Those are big questions that we need to pursue.
Yeah, and as there's affordable housing, if people can afford to buy in downtown. Stephen, what do you think?
I mean, when you go out into the neighborhoods, I think you really see the effects of the pandemic and the way it kind of drew back the curtain on the kind of poverty that people were existing in before, and is in some cases much worse now. Keep coming back to this recent study that shows the number of people who are paying half their income to live, just to rent someplace in Detroit. I mean, these are problems on a scale that it's hard to imagine what you do to move the needle. And we've been really focused on like discrete kinds of policy change in housing and job opportunity and things like that, but we still have this kind of irrational market that we all live in the city, for where from top to bottom, things don't make sense the way they do other places. I asked the mayor about it this morning about this bigger context that all of this fits into, and he said, "You're right. We need big moves and big change to affect that, but even the $800 million that's coming in from the federal government is really not enough to reset those things the way they need to be."
And some of that's one-time spending, Nolan.
And I asked the mayor about it yesterday morning when I had to sit down with him, and he says he's committed to spending that money on projects that'll bring generational change. If you just piddle it away here, there, and everywhere, this once-in-a-lifetime windfall is going to be gone. So he says he's looking for projects that have a 20-year impact, and I think that's essential to do. He was also very excited about this partnership between the Illage organization and Stephen Ross, the real estate developer, to bring the U of M Innovation Center into the district in Detroit. You think that's going to have a huge impact in attracting really major corporations to Detroit to put operations here, companies we haven't seen before.
Operations here, but then that goes to the next thing, is the talent, making sure that we have the talent there to fill the jobs that are going to come. And looking at the availability, though, of some of those middle wage jobs that we've talked about, Stephen, that are not the low wage, the entry level, but maybe don't require a 4-year degree, because you're looking at the population of the city where 85% do not have a degree over high school.
Yeah. So, I mean, one of the key developments in that area over the last couple of years has been the construction of this carpenter's training center in the neighborhood where I was born. In fact, this is a 4-year course that takes you from nothing to a journeyman carpenter or millwright. The opportunity for that for Detroiters cannot be overstated, right? This is an opportunity for young people to sort of aim themselves toward. It's also an opportunity for older people who missed out on other kinds of job training opportunities. And this is for a lifetime. You get that card and you're a journeyman carpenter. That's a lot of money that you're entitled to go and make and do these middle skill jobs for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's a different trajectory, but it does make us look at the future at work here, Nolan, in the last minute we have left.
It absolutely does. In a lot of ways, we're in the same place we were 2 years ago, before the pandemic, generating a lot of opportunity now in the region as we were before. Not enough people prepared to exploit those opportunities. And so, we still suffer from what is a inadequate education system across the state. And if Michigan, if you look at the workplaces of the future and the highly skilled workers we're going to need, we're still talking about the same issues. We've got to move past sort of the conversation and get things done in terms of training our folks to succeed in the future.
Yeah, and having a cohesive plan. All right. Also, you can't have a Mackinac Policy Conference without a little bit of politics thrown in. It's a political year. We're going to talk about that coming up a little later on in the show, so stay with me. But when we talk about the future of work, what Nolan was talking about in jobs, Michigan's success will depend on growing our population as well, making the state an attractive place to do business, like have affordable living and good education. Businesses will also look at incentives and a trained workforce.
From your perspective, Doug, is Michigan competitive? And if not, why not?
So I think we have a larger role to play, particularly in the new jobs, the new economy of technology, innovation, and so forth, than we actually get credit for. Right? People don't generally think in tech of Michigan essentially as a growth state. I think it's evidenced by the fact that we have not actually grown our population and so forth. But neither do they actually think of auto actually as a tech industry, which actually is. The big challenge, though, is that as the World Economic Forum, they just had a report on the future of jobs. There's 75 million jobs that will be displaced by technology, with 133 million new jobs being created that are digital. And we have to fight harder for the jobs that remain in manufacturing. Our manufacturing levels are back up, but with a third less jobs. And in some cases, like an EV, as many of you know, it takes 30% less labor to actually develop. So we have to fight harder for not just the jobs that we have, but for the jobs of the future. And those really are driven by technology innovation.
We have to worry about K through 12. And when you look at where we stand in the state of Michigan, let's not go global right now. Let's just stay in the United States of America. We are 33rd in the 8th grade math scores, 39th in 4th grade reading. We're 41st in high school graduation. We have to invest in our children for the jobs of the future. And we have to have them graduate and give them a path for jobs that will be available. But people aren't going to come to this state when they look at those statistics and they don't have the talent here.
As a relatively new transplant to Michigan, I had never thought about coming to Michigan for tourism or livelihood prior to coming. And I came for a job, and I'm still here 6 years later, and I love it, and I'm here on stage, so thank you for having me. But the thing that we are missing is there's not a one-size-fits-all solution, right? There's many different populations of talent, some of whom come here for 2 or 4 years for university, and then some of whom leave. People that grew up here and went through the K through 12 school system and then moved along, or others like Doug and I that grew up somewhere else and would stay. So you can't have a one-size-fits-all solution, but people want a lot of the same things. They want to have a good life. They want to have a good job. They want to have mobility. They want leisure activities. And those are things that we have parts of, but we need to create a vision of the life that they could have that enables them to come join us.
We've got a long way to go. Jeff Donofrio at lunch talked about, where is our common shared vision of where our economy is going, what our industry needs, and how are we mapping to that, right? How are we mapping the skills of tomorrow that our industry of tomorrow where we have competitive advantages, what are we mapping to that, right? How do we, ensure that we make the state more attractive for, especially young, talented people, and how do we then communicate that to people? And then finally, the sense of urgency, and all of our friends, John Ricolta has really been pushing on this, which is, we need a sense of urgency. We need action, not soon, but sooner than soon. And he's talking about a commission, or, maybe that's the right idea, but whatever we need to do something robustly, we need to do something big, and we need to do it quickly, and it needs to be in a bipartisan way.
So I'm grateful to be sitting on stage with leaders like this. Being here at a conflab, we have some of the best minds globally that are thinking about how to change the marketplace, whether it's healthcare, whether it's research, chemicals, financial services, mobility, you name it. So gratitude is to see for more, so we can't lose perspective on what we have. The second thing are two things that my dad told me. You have to be your own best critic, you have to be relentlessly objective, but you also be your own best cheerleader. We are very good at being the critic. We must celebrate what we have here. Think about the fact that Dow continues to make investments here in Midland, Michigan. Think about what Tina and her team are doing at BHSF System. They could be doing other things, but they continue to invest in Michigan. We continue to be able to keep Sandy here when every chamber, every organization in the world is trying to recruit here. People want to be in Michigan.